Hey guys! So, today we are going to talk a little bit about complexity and not over-engineering, but engineering done wrong. Or rather, engineering a solution that seems good in theory, but it's not going to work out overall. Let's call it scalability. So let's get into it. Now, yesterday I was reading a very nice article about theming using CSS variables. And the author of this very nice article was touching on a subject, like it's very fun when you read an article from one of these more famous programmer profiles or designers or whatever you want to call them. And seeing them kind of use a solution that it's basically a solution that you already made yourself, and to kind of rediscover, if you will, the same sort of thing somebody else has already made. It's very fun to kind of see that you align your way of thinking in closely to that of people who are very experienced. And the idea basically was to use CSS variables in order to create a theming strategy for an application. Now, the idea at heart is that you have your global styles in your pseudo root element, and then you declare different variables for the different values. Things such as fonts and paddings and all that good stuff, and colors. And then you scope things so that you have those as the global styles, and then you can go down at the component level and say that you're using BEM in this example, and you create a modal. And within that modal, or that modal selector, you will declare inline variables that are just specific to that modal, so that you can at the global level override and write basically tweak all the values globally on the site, but you can also go down at the component level and tweak those values. Now, the idea behind this is that this allows you to, in a very effective manner, create a very dynamic system where you can tweak things and you can change things and so forth and so forth. Now, the author very accurately states that you should give people as little freedom as humanly possible, because when it comes to designing something like this, because the problem with CSS is that, and this is not just a problem with CSS, this is a problem with anything that is customizable or themable, if you will, and that is that if you give people too much freedom, they're going to hang themselves you give them too much rope, they're going to hang themselves. I know this firsthand, probably better than most, because I used to have to maintain a CSS system or its customization system where literally the customer just had complete freedom to do whatever they wanted with the site. And you may think that that's something that they should realize, that all right, if you overwrite everything that I make in order to style things the way that you want them, and then they break, somehow that's still my problem. I know I might not be as customer focused as I want to be, but it's very frustrating when you get angry people calling you and saying that, oh, my site doesn't work, and I go, well, of course, because you did display hidden. Of course the element isn't going to be there, because they're not programmers, or they're not developers, if you will, or designers or whatever. So what I wanted to touch on here is that this idea of having the scope variables and the global variables in order to support theming is a very elegant, nice solution. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that this won't scale. The problem is that these poor people have fallen victim to the same sort of issue well, it's not an issue, because it kind of depends on your use case. The thing is, and this is something that I keep on telling people over and over, it's something that I realized a long time ago, and that is that elegant, beautiful solutions have to be simple enough that they can be mass consumed. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that if you take a tool such as, say, React. Now, if you think that React is a great tool, or Angular or whatever, these tools are great, and they are designed to be adopted by the maximum amount of people. It's a general solution, something that is easy to adopt for a third party that does not possess your skill levels. Now, this theming strategy is, to a point, something that is easy to it's something that's going to be easy to kind of comprehend at small scale. But when you get up to a really large system with many different people inheriting this entire way of working over a long time, I can tell you firsthand that it will not work. The reason why it won't work is because you cannot enforce that every single person will style and use all your strategies that you have declared in the way that you have intended. You can't even make sure that they are actually following all these practices because it's not directly obvious to them how it works. I have worked on a project where we have had several different design paradigms or design styles in our CSS setup where it just became legacy because the people who declared that made it accessible, made it into what it is. They either left the company or they started working on another part of the project. So, and left apps. Like even the documentation wasn't all that great. So all that happened was that you created this the situation where you had multiple ways of doing the same sort of thing, and none of it worked. Because when it comes down to it, guys, scalability is something that requires you to have a solution that caters to the lowest common denominator. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that if you have created an engineering solution, although it's elegant and sophisticated, and somebody who is looking at it as an expert can say, "Wow, this was very clever." Because I think that this author, like the solution is very clever, and if I were to work on my own little hobby project, or if I were to work on something small where I am literally one of the few, if not the only person working on it, I will use it because I can comprehend how it works and I care enough to maintain the solution. But at scale, you may have a lot of different coworkers. You may have tons of people working on it, and the thing is, they will not care as much as you do. And they will not necessarily have the skills to understand how things are working because it is not directly obvious when you read, like the solution is not directly obvious how it works and why it works the way it works. You have to educate people. You have to make sure that everybody is on board with it and so forth and so forth. And you have differences in opinion. You have all these different issues that come up with having these more sophisticated solutions. So the true challenge here is that although the solution itself is a mentally elegant solution, it will not scale. And that's the thing I want you to take away from this. Scalability does not necessarily, it's not just about performance, guys. It's not just about that. It's about creating solutions that can be easily accessed or easily used by multiple people. As I said, like with React, because nothing React does cannot be done with vanilla JavaScript. It can all be done with vanilla JavaScript, but the amount of skill that is required to do what React is doing with vanilla JavaScript is immensely high in comparison to React. And that's what a sustainable and scalable solution is about. It is about solving a problem that is a pain point for people in a way that is easy to maintain over time and easy to use. That's what it's all about. Have a great day.